It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman here with Andrea Serrani. And yesterday, hopefully you were praying for us. I feel like people were praying for us. We had a really good retreat, a staff retreat for our Redeemer Radio. Headed over to St. Louis, Besançon.
Yeah, it was awesome. An excellent use of a day.
I don't think that's how you would typically, or at least frequently, describe staff
like a work
day-long
retreat
meetings.
Yeah, they're useful and important and good even.
And I think that you, at least, and probably me too, were a little skeptical going into it because of the personality test that we took leading into it.
Yes. I ended up taking the personality test many times. The first time I got one answer, but then I was doing it on my phone, and the browser I use on my phone, it's kind of easy to accidentally refresh the page while I'm scrolling. So I accidentally refreshed the page, and it took me to the beginning of the quiz. So I had to take it over, and I got a different answer that time. Then I was thinking I'd be able to email myself the results to print off later, but I couldn't. So I had to come back here and take the test on a PC, and I got another different result. So then I was like really suspicious and just started taking it multiple times. And I ended up going back and forth between two, but most often I would get the same one. But then I was getting mad because the word, this is funny because what I was getting frustrated about was that I was saying in the quiz that I was flexible, and the result would say that I was not flexible. But last night my husband was like, "You are not flexible. That's crazy."
So it was seeing something in you that you weren't able to recognize yourself.
So maybe it just knew me better than I know myself.
So this personality test that we took before the retreat, which was our instructions, was DISC, D-I-S-C. And I think that the test itself worked in the end.
Well, yeah. The other sort of funny thing about that is when I told our sort of instructor about this, who was our friend Mary Jo Parrish. Yeah, she said, "Yeah, you would take that test multiple times."
Right, that's part of the test. Who would take this multiple times? But yeah, so that was like a free version. There's all kinds of different things that you have to give, either information or pay money for potentially better tests. But it was kind of just a simple one. But kind of interesting to see this. And I kind of feel like sometimes you take these personality tests and then the results, they give it back and it just tells you information about yourself. You're like, yeah, I already knew that. Like, yes, I know I'm introverted, or yes, I know I'm extroverted. That's what I told you whenever I was taking this personality test. But I think the question is, then what do we do with the information that once it describes your personality? Okay, how does that affect us? Like, what are we supposed to do with that information? And then whenever we know the personality of other people, what are we supposed to do? It's the application of this information that is important. And so the first thing we looked at was our interaction as a staff. Okay, first of all, recognizing the different personalities in the room, and then saying, what are the strengths and maybe weaknesses and challenges of these different personalities and interacting? Like, what can we recognize in each other and realize that we're created with these different personalities by God, the creator, the person that created us. God gave us these different personalities, and that was intentional. The fact that we have different strengths is a good thing. And so kind of recognizing that in each other. And when somebody has a specific personality and they might seem to be over aggressive in a certain thing, they're trying to fix the problem. And maybe that's not your personality. You want to analyze things. I don't know. I kind of struggle with some of these a little bit. Like, we did a thing where it was the hitchhiker, right? Mm-hmm. And so the person was told a personality, and then we acted this out, picked up the hitchhiker, and we in the car were supposed to figure out the personality. I was horrible at that. Like, I had the sheet in front of me of all of these descriptions, and I was trying to figure out what the personality was. I was completely on the wrong one.
Yeah. And see, I knew all of them.
Yeah.
Even though we tested the same personality.
Right.
So none of these things are like exhaustive, like going to describe every single thing about you. But
and
also,
just because you hit one personality doesn't mean that you are 100%. So we're both C's in this
we're
disc.
both C's.
DISC.
Yes.
Right. So we're both C's. I think one of the most helpful and interesting things of this was this grid that shows when you are interacting. So your style is pick a letter.
Yep. C for
and
us.
the other person that you're interacting with is a letter.
D, I, S, or C.
You go across the grid.
Yep.
And this is how it happens. So, for example, us both being C's, it says, beware of analysis paralysis, where you spend too much time analyzing the conflict and not enough time making a decision about what to do. Which we both just instantly laughed because...
Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, we'll look at something that's happening here at the station and we do exactly that.
Yeah, on the show or whatever, Kyle and I will be like, oh, here's a problem that we need to address. And then we'll just talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and never really decide anything. Yeah.
Right.
Talking about all the angles of the problem, all the details, talking about solutions, various kinds of solutions, but never deciding which is the best one.
And realizing and recognizing that as a weakness of our personalities. And also, I mean, obviously there's strengths that we are able to analyze the situation is a good thing.
Yes.
But not to overanalyze it and not to waste time analyzing. That is a good thing for us to recognize and see in each other and realize, okay, when he does this, he doesn't mean this. This is just his personality and whatever. Very helpful. So that's kind of like a practical, secular, like any person in any business working in any environment. Also, but families, like realizing the exact same thing happens within your family structures and a husband and wife having different or the same personalities, how that applies and what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of each other and how do you work together and recognizing that, like, okay, they are reacting differently than I am. That's not because they are wrong and I am right, but it's because they have a different approach of looking at the exact same situation. And so how can we learn from each other? How can we grow? And how can this all fit together? Okay. The next step, what we did with our personalities was taking a look at saints. And so Mary Jo Parrish put together this list of different saints, and not that they ever took this test and got it, but just based on their life, their mission, readings about what they have written, what other people have written about them. This is what Mary Jo Parrish would assume that their personality, whether D, I, S, or C was. And so taking a look at that then, for us to focus on some of these saints that would have our same personality and realize like, okay, this person thought the way that I do. What are some inspirational words that they've written? How can I be inspired by whatever books or quotes or prayers from this saint and praying for their intercession, asking those particular saints, hey, look, you thought like I did. Pray for me so that I can make good decisions. I can use my personality to its greatest strength and use the gifts that God has given me, right? But also to look at, okay, these other three areas that I might be weaker in, looking to those saints for a different type of inspiration, for different types of prayers. And this goes back to, I think it just had a profound impact for me yesterday, but also going back to probably 2002, I went to a youth ministers conference for Life Teen, and Jim Beckman was a speaker, and he did a similar thing. He did it using the what's it called? It's four letters, but there's two pairs that
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, thank you. So for that, he just did a really quick, like, are you introverted or extroverted? This is what an introvert does. This is what an extrovert does. You pick one, right? And you come up with your letters. And he basically threw away two of the I can't remember how this all worked, but he threw away two of the letters. So everybody just has two letters, which gives you four different combinations. And those 4 different personalities he associated with prayer personalities. And there's Franciscan, Ignatian, I don't know what the other. I was Franciscan, I remember. And realizing that different people have different spiritualities based on these personalities was really helpful for me, because I think I always struggled when somebody found a particular prayer to be helpful and I didn't. I felt like there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't holy enough to benefit from this prayer in the same way that they were benefiting from it. I believe that we benefit from prayer no matter what, whether we feel it or not. Prayer is a good thing in any form. But when somebody went to adoration and they felt the Holy Spirit and I didn't have those same feelings, I thought I was doing something wrong. And realizing that we have different prayer personalities, that we have different gifts, that we have different things that draw us closer to God. And, well, I guess all these things can draw us closer to God, but they draw us to God in different ways, and it takes different forms. I think was helpful for my spirituality to realize that and to be affirmed that I'm still living my vocation. I'm still being drawn close to God, even if it doesn't look the same as the person right beside me.
Mm-hmm.
So, third phase of this, we go into adoration over at the chapel. And Father Ben invites people, say, if you would like to be prayed over, and he mentions a little bit about Unbound. I think he mentioned that in his little spiel,
he did.
Right? And this is something that he's been working on. Mary Jo Parish and several others have been doing in the diocese, and they're kind of going around in parishes, and this Unbound, something we'll unpack a little bit with Theology of the Body Thursday with Cindy here today. I've heard a lot about, I've experienced a little bit in a couple different conference settings and things, but I've never, so I've been a part of a kind of a group unbinding thing, but I've never had a personal prayer. So whenever he said, you can come and I'll pray over you, I was like, yeah, I'd like to experience that. I don't know what to do. So we did, and Father Ben is praying over me, and he's like just open to the Holy Spirit and very charismatic. As like, if anything comes to mind as we're praying here, just go ahead and say it, and we can pray for that. And I'll just, if there's something that comes to me, I'll say it. And if it means something to you, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. Like, we're just kind of being open to the Holy Spirit here. And this is something like I totally want to do, but I think inside I've talked about this a little bit, like this, I think it's a little bit of unhealthy skepticism. Like, it's not going to work for me. Like, this isn't going to happen to me. I've got my hands out with the palms up and I'm praying. I feel like I'm totally open to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's a little bit of doubt or hesitation or something. And so we did this whole thing. It was great. I do think some interesting things came out, and Father Ben had some really insightful things to say. And at the end, I just kind of shared that I feel like I'm not completely open to this. And he said, what was your personality? I said, a C. He said, yeah, it's really hard for C's to get into this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, just validates, like, everybody's having these profound experiences, and I'm jealous. And him saying, that's normal for you to not have this same experience, was just affirming to me that, yeah, we have different personalities.
Right.
And that translates into our prayer life. It translates into our faith life, our family, our work, everything.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't make it a bad thing. It just means you have to take different steps to get to the same place.
Yeah. Yep.
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 Yep. Yep. Yep. Yep.